For somebody who wants to do this professionally, I sure don't do a good job of keeping up or like centering my camera. Hi, welcome. Welcome back to this channel that automatically goes on hiatus anytime there's a Formula One weekend because I've decided that that is not happening, that I can't function with the anxiety of a Formula One weekend alongside my bookish life at all. And yeah, so anytime there's a Formula One weekend, you should not expect videos from me. If I manage somehow in like the triple header, great. I follow Ferrari, like, yeah, kind of religiously a bit, to the point where it is obnoxious that I genuinely just can't pay attention to anything else that's happening. I'll catch up on whatever's happened or like a rewatch or something of the race. But these past 2 weekends have not been so great for Ferrari. So if you can just like put in some happy books for me to read, that would be lovely. Because as much as I love a sad book over anything else, I do need happiness in my life a bit. So I would be really, really grateful if you could, just give me some cozy book recommendations. That would be lovely. Thank you. Today we are doing the first time I'm recording a video in like morning, so we have a bit of a natural light thing happening, which is great because I don't have any extra light sources for me. So, this is lovely. This is brilliant. I don't know how many of you watched my very first video, my book tag. Was it? I don't know, my newbie booktube book tag. But in it, I do say that I really like watching Carrie Can Read. She is the reason this channel exists. Like, her just being herself sort of inspired me to also want to record my reading journey again. And it sort of became like, yeah, I like, long story short, I like her. I like watching her. I wait for Fridays so she can post her videos, and I love watching everything she posts. So last week or last to last week, she posted a book tag that she created. So that is what we are going to do. We are going to do Carrie's book tag. Yay! I am really excited. The book tag essentially is about our lore, about our reading lore, how we started reading, how we became the person we became when it came to reading, and like how our life circumstances sort of promoted reading. That is what I gather. Okay, so the first question is, what's the first book you remember reading by yourself? Okay, listen, I know I've read a lot of books, but I do not have the greatest memory, nor did I record anything that I was reading up until like 4 5 years ago. So I do not have an extensive list of books that I can go back to because most of the books that I would read would be from our school library, and we would not essentially get a choice in what we were. At least when we were really, really young, I remember that we would go to the library, we would take our seats, and the assistant librarian would just like have this stack of books ready, and she would just like randomly assign each book to each student, and that would be our book of the week. So I know I've read a lot. At that age, I was not finishing books, so I think that is why I just don't remember what I read. There was this one time though, our school is divided, at least in my time, was divided into two different buildings. So after fifth grade, we would have to go to a different building, which was in a completely different part of our city. So I had a library book with me for the longest time, and I did not return it for whatever reason. I do not remember, but like I was cleaning one day and I stumbled upon, and like this is where like seventh grade me stumbled upon a library book, and so we go back to that school and we like hand over the book to them 2 years too late. But yeah, that was definitely something. I do think if we would be staying in the same building, they had, ways they could track people. But like, if the child has gone to the separate building, if the child is not stepping into this old building up until fifth grade, how could they, do it? So yeah, that was something. I have this vivid memory of being assigned like one of those goosebump novels, the choose your adventure ones, and like fourth grade me was terrified by the idea or the prospect of a horror novel. I've never really gelled with horror. I've not gelled with horror from the very beginning of my reading, like, to the point that I read Stephen King. Like I have it by Stephen. I have it by Stephen King on somewhere in the shelves. I read the first three lines and I shut the book back. I was like, nah, I'm not reading this. I am not powerful enough to sit through this. So that is what we were dealing with. But at the same time, the aspect of choose your own adventure fascinated me, that I just could not stop reading. Like, I remember I saw one of my classmates get that novel, and I sort of really requested my librarian to be like, please, can I get that one? Please, I want to read it. I want to see what this choose your adventure thing is. So, yeah, that is one of the formative memories that I do have. But yeah, I don't specifically remember a single book that I was reading on my own. Next question is, what character did you identify with in elementary school? Is it cliche if I say Hermione? There's no one else. Yeah, there's genuinely just no one else. At least in the first few books, she was very much a lonesome person. She got made fun of a bit. Yeah, that's me a bit. Not more so the intelligent part, just the overall arcing narrative of her as a character. I identify with that aspect a bit more. Carrie said she was into spies and stuff. As much as I loved Spy Kids, I was not a Nancy Drew kid. Nancy Drew, I've read Nancy Drew. I'm jumping ahead in the timeline. This is like eighth grade me discovering that there's a crossover series that exists between Hardy Boys and Nancy Drew. And I read Double Crossing in that series. I was like, oh, okay, books can do that. Books can do that to you. So, like, that was the first book I read of Nancy Drew. And then I tried to read, plain Nancy Drew, and that did not work for me at all. Like, I just could not grapple the fact that Nancy Drew existed in this universe where Hardy Boys did not exist. So I just went to town with those books, at least as much as my librarian would allow me to. Our school librarians were typically like, they had a certain way of things that they followed, and that is how they stuck to it. They did not change their methods for anyone at all. So that was a bit of a bummer, because when you wanted to read a specific book that you could clearly see that the library had, you could not do that because there were certain restrictions placed that, certain children could not, like, children under the age of 8 or 15 or 14 could not read specific books because of the content and stuff. And yeah, that was not at all fun. The next question is, what was your elementary school comfort? Harry Potter. I reread those series like a bunch of times. So I read those books like 3, 4 times, like reread those 3, 4 times, and that too, the rereadings sort of encompassed a lot of my childhood. And I wanted to read Narnia books because I loved the movies, and I just could not get into those. And there was this one time where I got an ebook version of Chronicles of Narnia. I don't even remember what book this was. And I copy pasted the entire ebook into a document, like a Word document. And then I found and replaced the character names with me. and my um, sister and my cousin name, the name of my cousins, because I don't know why I did that. I just like I thought it would be fun to read myself in those worlds because well, who does not like that? But yeah, that went nowhere. I did not end up reading the original or my altered version of Chronicles of Narnia at all. And yeah, liked rereading Harry Potter, liked rewatching those Chronicle of Narnia movies. Next question is, where or what was your safe space as a kid? I don't think I had a safe space as such, like a physical space. I know I was happy when I was reading. So wherever I was reading, because I did not have like a dedicated space for reading. Our library, yes, you could say that we were not allowed to sit in the library outside of our designated periods, at least until I think we were in ninth grade or something, or even 11th or 12th. So that is like so much of high school has gone by. Ninth grade would be the first year of high school. 11th and 12th would be the second last year and the last year of high school. So we were not allowed as such to sit in library, and we did not also have a local library that a young child could visit. So whenever wherever I was reading, that would be my safe space, and that would usually be at home, or sometimes when I did have the library books, I would just sneak them into our classes, and I would just read when the class was happening because I was not interested in what was being taught at all. And that would be a trend that continued throughout my school life. Um, yeah, yeah. I decided really young that I wanted to do something with books and reading and words. And I am 24 now, and that has not panned out, but we keep on trying. I would love it if life could just be around books and reading and fictional worlds. And yeah, yeah, that would be my safe space as an adult. But as a young child, I did not have a designated safe space. It would usually be when I was reading, wherever I was reading, wherever I could sneak in reading. That was fun. Honestly, that was the highlight of my childhood. That I would just like read when the class was taking place, and I was so good at that. And people would ask like, "How am I reading all these chunks?" And I was just like, you don't know the half of it. You don't know what I'm doing. Next question is, how has your taste in books changed since childhood? I still do not like horror. I still do not like being told what to read. That is something that I do not gel with, because I think the way our libraries functioned in school, that sort of left uh, an unseemly memory in my mind, that we just could not choose what we wanted to read, that we had to comply by these arbitrary rules that like somebody had set up. We did not even know who had set up those rules. And that would be really, really saddening, because I could see the book I wanted to read. I was really interested in it, and I would not be allowed to get it. And otherwise, as well, like at our home or like generally where I live, reading is not a big part of the mainstream culture. So, like, you really did not have much access apart from your school library, and then they had all these restrictions. I still do not like to be told what to read or what not to read. If somebody tells me you should not read it, I will just like read it out of spite. I might hate it, but I will read it out of spite. Um, yeah. So, has anything else changed? Loved fantasy as a child, still love fantasy. I was big into classics. That is why I did my master's in English literature. So yeah, there are different facets and different things that I liked about different genres, and I still like a lot of things about a lot of them. I was not a big autobiography memoir reader when I was young, but that has changed a bit. I have found peace and tranquility in reading memoirs of people, and like you learn so much from their experience that you probably would not otherwise. So yeah, that's been fun. The next question is, did you feel inspired to read by your school, and if yes, how did your upbringing encourage reading? Okay, I did go on a rant that I did not like how our libraries functioned, but at the same time, they also sort of forced every kid to issue a book. There was not a choice. You could not opt out of it. Some kids, they would take these books, and like the books would lie in their homes for a week, and then the next week they would bring it back and return it without touching the book. But in so many people, I saw like this just sort of forced issuing of the, it sort of forced so many kids to actually start reading, because yeah, everybody would be interested in reading the story. Nobody wants to read a story for, like, a class, or a textbook, or like as a textbook. But when you got these stories as assigned reading for the week, by your library, and at the end of it there was no test, so many children read and so many children enjoyed themselves. And like, you would see people you would not expect to read be reading. And sure, most of these now adults would not have continued reading, but like at least 3, 4, 5, 10, 20 people maybe took reading as something they could not live without in their adulthood, and that is something I think commendable in our schools system. At home, it was not a big thing. It was reading was not seen as, like, something good, which sort of, I think, stems from the fact that it was at the time extremely expensive to afford books, and to have expendable income to spend on books. And like, nobody at my home wanted me to spend so much of my time staring at a screen. Either we could not afford to invest in a Kindle either. So yeah, at home, even if they wanted me to read, they just like could not. Like, it was not an affordable hobby at the time, and that was sad, and that made me sad a lot. And but then also, that is also why I reread Harry Potter a bunch of times. So you win some, you lose some. What book have you wanted to return to lately? Is it bad if I say Six of Crows? I used to do rereadings of Six of Crows every year, and I have not done it like for the past 2 years. So I really want to. Six of Crows I read when I was like 17, 18. Again, I somebody told me that Six of Crows is bad, or like they did not like it. I was like, no, no, I will read it now. That is how I found my favorite book of my life. So, reading out of spite gets you along. So, like, I'm 24. 17 was so long ago. So, I think that counts for nostalgia and lore a bit. The next question is your favorite or formative YA series? Harry Potter? Yeah, because I remember staying up till 3 a.m. reading Goblet of Fire, and I was sleeping with my grandparents at the time. And I remember finishing Order of Phoenix like very, very vividly. So, as much as the series has been tainted by the way the author carries herself in mass media, yeah, it was a huge part of my childhood. But again, I do think that came from a lack of access to other books at the time. If I had access to other books at the time, I don't think I would have stuck with Harry Potter as long as I did. Because once I got the access, I have not looked back to that series. Like, I have not watched the movies in like years. And yeah, yeah, it made me who I am, but it was also because things were just like not available at the time, and I did not know how to find more books. Like, Google would spew out like the same list every single time you ask it for recommendations at the time, and I did not know about Bookstagram or BookTube. And yeah, I was stuck in a cycle. But then I discovered BookTube. Then I discovered Hannah's channel, A Clockwork Reader. Then I discovered Mortal Instruments. I discovered All the Light We Cannot See, and that book was that book was in my life for a long time. Like, I could not stop thinking about how historical fiction could be a thing. Um, and like how my worldview was so limited. Like, at least even in books, it was so limited at the time that I could not expand. Like, just because of the access, I just did not know what other books existed that I could enjoy that were suitable for me at the time, that would give me the same enjoyment as Harry Potter did. So, a book you had to read in school but you loved. Three Men in a Boat by Jerome K. Jerome. I had to read it, I think, in ninth grade. And that was the first time I was like, oh, books can be funny. Books can be funny, books can crack jokes. And it was like a gag joke after a gag joke after a gag joke over and over and over again. And so, yeah, that was fun. And our teacher made it a lot more fun too. So, yeah, that was fun. If your 13-year-old self could live in a fictional world, which would it be? Is it different from the world you'd choose now? 13-year-old me would definitely go for Harry Potter. Current me would probably go for. I don't think I would go in a fantasy world. Like, most of the fantasy worlds we know and love, like, there's a lot of danger involved, there's a lot of chaos and like world ending things involved. So, don't think I'd go for it, but probably a cozy fantasy. I'd opt for a cozy fantasy world where I could just like be a bookshop owner and have a cafe nearby and I could go and I could read. Yeah, yeah. If somebody right now, right here, wants me to achieve my dream, you are more than welcome to sponsor. Is there a newly released book you wish you had when you were young? Heartstopper. I think I would have loved Heartstopper. I stumbled upon Heart. It's like right there. I stumbled upon Heartstopper really late in my life, but I think young me would really, really, really enjoy living in that world, being or seeing acceptance. Um, and yeah, yeah, that would have been lovely. And to see, like, just Alice Oseman's whole verse in general, I stumbled upon it very, very late. I think I would have loved Radio Silence when I was really young. I would have loved Loveless when I was really young. I would have definitely adored Heartstopper when I was really young. And yeah, yeah, Heartstopper and the rest of Osman's series. I was born for this also because I love being in fandoms, and that just sort of glorifies fandom experience to the best of its ability. And yeah, that was a fun book. I want to reread that actually. Um, yeah, now that I talk about it, that was fun. Yeah, this is it. That is where the book tag ends. I am so happy I did this. I can't believe I started this channel because of Carrie. Like, I started booktube again because of Carrie, and now we are doing a book tag created by Carrie. This has been so fun. I'm so excited to edit this and put it out. Yeah, okay, cool. Bye.